So, how did the vice presidential debate go? Here's a quick take. Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe and let's talk about it. So, the vice presidential candidate debate was normal. It started out with a normal tone. There weren't any bombastic "they're eating the dogs" sound bites, but there were instances. JD Vance is a slippery and a good debater. Tim Walz is also a good debater. If you ask me who won the debate today, I would say that it was Tim Walz because of two things. First, because JD Vance flipped out when one of the moderators fact checked JD Vance on the Springfield, Ohio Haitian controversy. And JD Vance got upset and said, "You're fact checking when we're not supposed to." So clearly, JD Vance wanted to lie through the debate. And there were many other lies that he sewed into his talks. And he's pretty good at spinning the web and sewing in little lies here and there. But when it came to the Springfield xenophobia immigrant talk, JD Vance was flustered because the only thing that JD Vance had and kept going back to was Harris's open borders. Mind you, it is President Biden's administration, and Kamala Harris was not given the job of the border czar. That job is for the Department of Homeland Security. Alexander Mayorkas is the Secretary of Homeland Security. So that is not Kamala Harris's job. But JD Vance kept on bringing back the lie that Kamala Harris had everything to do with what's going on at the southern border. And every problem that we have in the country can be traced back to the southern border. It's not the guns who are killing the people, it's the southern border illegal immigrants. It's not the manufacturing that's going away because of policies that Donald Trump had. It is not. So the focus of every attack was, we go back to Kamala Harris's border policy. Well, it was Biden's border policy, and today the truth is that there are less immigrants coming through the southern border than they did when Donald Trump was in office. And I'm glad that that truth was pointed out by Tim Walz as well. You know, JD Vance is a smooth talker, and he can quite quickly lace in lies and not answer questions. And we saw that happening several times. The last thing by which I think that Tim Walz won was the last question that was talked about, which was whether Donald Trump won the 2020 election or not. JD Vance refused to answer that question with a straight face, and he threw back asinine comparisons to Tim Walz. He simply couldn't answer the question, because if he would have answered the question that, yeah, Donald Trump did lose in 2020, then he could get fired by Donald Trump, and Donald Trump could find another VP. So, those 2 points, the point about Springfield, Ohio, and the point about the January 6th and then the 2020 election, were 2 points where JD Vance fumbled, where JD Vance sort of fell out of his comfort zone. And I don't think that Tim Walz was ever out of his comfort zone, except maybe when the question was asked about Tiananmen Square. He stated quite clearly that he misspoke and he misstated when he was there, but he was there during the protests, not during the Tiananmen Square incident, but afterwards when these pro-democracy protests were happening. So he clarified that point. I don't think that this debate can be looked at as debate that Donald Trump had with Kamala Harris, because Donald Trump is the main bulwark of the disinformation, and he is the criminal defendant who is currently under indictment for defrauding the United States and attempting to overthrow the American government. And that is the man that we have to choose between. It's either him or Vice President Kamala Harris, who has been the tie-breaking vote in some of the most decisive and impactful legislations that have come out of Congress. The Inflation Reduction Act, the CHIPS Act, there was another, the Social Infrastructure, the Infrastructure Act, and has moved the country forward. And we have regained the ground we lost because of the COVID pandemic and the economic crash because of it. We have moved forward on legislation for gun violence. We need to move further on it. We hold our allies as important parts of our agenda worldwide. And Tim Walz and Kamala Harris have pointed their positions on Ukraine and on the Middle East. They have clarified their positions on Medicare, on healthcare, on expanding healthcare to all Americans, affordable healthcare. Whereas on the other side, Donald Trump and JD Vance have concepts of a plan, not something that JD Vance formulated or made any concrete points about in today's debate. So that's my quick take on the debate. I think that Tim Walz won simply because of those 2 points. The point where JD Vance was flustered by the Springfield, Ohio fact check, and at the very end when he was asked by Tim Walz whether Donald Trump won the 2020 election or not, straight up, and JD Vance didn't answer the question. So those 2 points are big losing points for JD Vance. And while he may be a slippery bugger, I don't think that many people are going to miss the parts where he sort of stepped into an uncomfortable place and showed America exactly who he is. With that said, thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe and share. I will talk to you soon.